So what is good, everybody on YouTube? We are back today with a brand new video, and for today's video, if you've been paying attention to NBA news lately, you saw that Marvin Bagley's dad has actually tweeted that he wants the Sacramento Kings to trade his son. And with that being said, we're going to try and win the Kings a championship and trade Bagley and make some moves this offseason. So, of course, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you always rock out with your boy, be sure to smash the like button for us to help the videos get higher and the search results get higher so more people can find the channel. So at the end of year one, without making any moves here, we only pick up 34 wins on the season. De'Aaron Fox having a super good year with 26.7 points per game, but it was still not enough to get this Kings team into the playoffs, which is okay, of course, because we have a lot of moves to make. And in the championship, Nikola Jokic ends up getting Finals MVP, helping out the Nuggets. Hopping into the draft lottery here, we're at pick 9, and we go exactly where we were projected in the lottery, securing pick 9, which means we could still get a top 10 guy, which is definitely good. So the guys we're looking at here, definitely Zaire Williams and Jalen Johnson. And for me, I think that we're going to be slightly leaning towards Jalen Johnson. And look at the floor. It says Robert Covington / out of the league. Robert Covington is a very good player, so I don't know how that is his comparison being out of the league, but it is what it is. And of course, here it is. It is time to trade Marvin Bagley and see what we can kind of get in return for him, in all honesty. And a lot of these trades are looking very weak, in all honesty. So I'm going to see what we can get if we actually bundle maybe Harrison Barnes and maybe our first round pick next year or something of that, because hopefully we're not a bad team next year. Let's be honest here. Gordon Hayward and PJ Washington is something that's interesting to me. I definitely want to get younger and kind of relieve some of these big contracts that the Kings did give out, such as this Harrison Barnes contract. And something like this would probably work for us, where we get Patrick Williams, of course, 3rd overall pick in this draft, and Wendell Carter Jr., who is obviously a promising center, so we're going to go ahead and do that one. Here we are in free agency. Not the best free agency class of all time, but we're going to try and go after both Kawhi and John Collins. I don't know how realistic it is that we can get Kawhi, but maybe we can get John Collins, which would definitely be a huge upgrade for the team, and see how that ends up working out. So let's check that out and see if we're actually able to secure any of them. And John Collins, it is looking like he could agree to this contract, but unfortunately the Hawks did end up matching our offer and stealing him from us, so now we're kind of left with a little bit more, I guess, of the scraps here, which you don't love to see. OG Anunoby is maybe someone on my radar, but I feel like Lauri Markkanen will have more trade value if we do have to move him later in the sim. And I definitely want to get someone that has some trade value, to say the very least. We bring in JaVale McGee on a 1-year deal, and as well we bring back Corey Joseph on a 1-year deal, both adding some depth to this Kings roster. So I definitely think that we made some upgrades this offseason, to say the very least, and brought in some guys that are pretty young on contracts that aren't all that big, which I'd like to see. Looking at the player progression, you see a lot of people going up here. De'Aaron Fox going up to a 90. The only real regression that we see there is JaVale McGee, which is okay because, of course, he just is a bench center that will probably be playing maybe 10 minutes a game. So let's see if this Lauri Markkanen thing ends up working out, and if I can bring in anyone that kind of makes sense. And I think I might go ahead and actually pull the trigger on the Rudy Gobert one and see if we can move on from Wendell Carter after that. We need someone that can stretch the floor, and maybe Davis Bertans, but I'm not so sure or sold on that, because I feel like Wendell Carter should have a little bit more trade value than Davis Bertans, in all honesty. And obviously Mitchell Robinson, a great player, but we can't bring in another big, in all honesty. I'm going to try to scoot Wendell Carter down to the 4 and maybe see how it works out for the season. Definitely kind of unrealistic, but you never know with 2K Sims. The defense of this team would be pretty crazy, in all honesty. So let's see how it works out. If it does not work, we can always switch some things up in the off season. So of course, let's get into that. So at the end of the year here, Joel Embiid ends up getting an MVP season with the Sixers, putting up almost 31 points per game. Cade Cunningham coming into the league, getting Rookie of the Year with the Bulls. And we do not have anybody on any of the All-NBA teams. My Sacramento Kings actually have a big progression from last year, going from a 34-win team to a 47-win team, adding 13 dubs on the season, which I cannot complain about. De'Aaron Fox does not have to do as much of the workload, but still puts up 24 a game. Buddy Buckets putting up 22 on 43% from the 3. Tyrese Halliburton having a great season there, putting up just about 15 points per game off the bench in that role as well, which you love to see. And it looks like when I actually adjust the rotations for playoffs, it looks like Jalen Johnson's going to be taking over for Patrick Williams, which is definitely interesting. And in our first round matchup here, we go against last year's NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets. We do get one game on them, but ultimately get knocked out in 5 by this pretty tough team. But it is okay. This team is still pretty early on, and we're definitely going to end up getting this team an NBA championship. I feel it in my toes. The Jazz here with Lauri Markkanen now up against the Celtics, and the Celtics ultimately taking it all with, of course, Jason Tatum getting Finals MVP. Moving into the offseason here, we do not have our NBA draft pick this year, but we are going to try to make some moves. Going to see if I can use Rudy Gobert maybe as a piece to move this offseason, as he should have some decent value. Looking through some of these trades, I'm not thrilled about any of them, but maybe if I add in Patrick Williams, of course, who was kind of having lackluster play last year. I like this one potentially where we get Ben Simmons and we get Matisse Thybulle. I'm seeing if there's any other ones I'm really liking here. The Vucevic and Jonathan Isaac one's pretty good, and honestly, I think I'm going to pull the trigger on this. Going ahead and getting us Steven Adams and Brandon Ingram. I think that that's a huge W. And in all honesty, I don't usually use Brandon Ingram in these, I feel. So getting him is definitely a W. Adding some bench pieces in the offseason here that are just going to help fill out the roster. And you see De'Aaron Fox now up to a 92. Brandon Ingram at a 90. A 6-point progression here from Tyrese Halliburton. And Wendell Carter up to an 87 now as well. So maybe it's possibly the time to look for a trade for Wendell Carter. Maybe get us someone that can stretch the floor at the 4 position a little bit better. And when I'm looking through these trades here, there's nothing I'm thrilled with just yet. Brandon Clark is one maybe that I would consider. Obviously on a very cheap contract and can stretch the floor very well. But we're going to start off the season normal, and if any changes have to be made, we will do that accordingly, of course. Working with about a 4-star system proficiency, so let's see. Okay, so we get to an 8-7 record, and I'm looking at some of the player stats here, and if I'm going to be honest, I'm just feeling some lackluster play from Wendell Carter. Not really what we want out of our power forward, in all honesty, and especially with the team around him, and Steven Adams not being able to really shoot the ball as our center. I think that we are going to have to make a move where we get ourselves a small power forward that can stretch the floor a little bit better for us. And, you know, it's going to be that Brandon Clark trades. I am willing to give up a future first in order to grab Brandon Clark to play the 4 for us, be our starter, and stretch the floor. We're also getting a guy with some potential in Xavier Tillman out of it, and I'm really liking this lineup a lot better with that move, in all honesty. With our bench looking very solid, let's keep that in mind as well. We have some pretty good depth. So let's see if that helps. So here we are at the end of the season. Luka Doncic getting MVP, Emoni Bates getting Rookie of the Year, and our Kings making playoffs, but only coming in as the 7th seed, going 42-40. Definitely not what we were hoping for. Brandon Ingram coming in and having a huge year, almost 22 points per game on 43% from 3. And of course, De'Aaron Fox doing his thing as well. A lot of production coming out of our shooting guards as well, and both Buddy and Tyrese Halliburton having very great stat lines here. 17.6 for Buddy, and Brandon Clark even coming in and having a very solid role on this team as well, which you love to see. So in the first round here, we find ourselves up against the Pelicans, of course with Zion Williamson, and we head to a Game 7 with them, where we hop into Simcast here, and in Simcast, it looks like we are actually going to take Game 7 by about 12 points. Zion dropping 37 in the loss, 32 from Buddy Buckets, and 26 from Tyrese Halliburton. A double-double there from De'Aaron Fox and from Steven Adams as well. Second round here, we are up against the Phoenix Suns, and it's a series that was a little bit of a fight back and forth, but they ultimately take it in 6, with Devin Booker dropping 40 and 28 from De'Aaron Fox in the loss. The Nuggets and Celtics in the finals yet again, with the Nuggets taking it all in 5. But I do feel really confident in this team potentially having our biggest year yet here, honestly. I like the makeup of our team last year. and adding some bench pieces, such as right here in Cameron Johnson at about a 77 overall backup power forward, will really help the team, especially with his ability to help stretch the floor as well. I'm very excited to see what this team is all about. Looking at the player progression, Tyrese Haliburton now up to a 90 overall, Buddy at an 85, Steven Adams regressing a little bit, and some of our veterans off the bench regressing a little bit, but they're not really going to see playing time anyway. Buddy now off the bench with Tyrese starting, and I'm very excited about this team this year. Luka Doncic getting MVP yet again, putting up 35.2 points per game. And we even see one of our own guys on the All-NBA team this year in the All-NBA second team nominee in De'Aaron Fox. We come in as the number 4 seed and have the highest record we've had so far in this rebuild. Tyrese Haliburton definitely picking it up, almost 20 points per game now as our third option scorer, which you would just love to see from him. And I'm very, very excited for this team. Steven Adams seems to have a kind of hard, troubling year for himself this year, but we're going to keep him in the starting lineup nevertheless. Working with a 4.5-star system proficiency and a first-round matchup here up against the Utah Jazz. Let's see if we can actually make it out of the first round here and start making some noise in the playoffs this year, because like I said before, I was very excited for this team heading into the playoffs. And ultimately, we end up taking out this Jazz team 4-0. In Game 4, Tyrese Haliburton leading the charge. Second round matchup up against a multiple-time NBA champ in this rebuild, the Denver Nuggets. And we find ourselves down 3-0 to this Nuggets squad. So, of course, when we're in situations like this with our backs to the wall, we start hopping into Simcast, and we get a big Game 4 dub here. 38-point performance there from De'Aaron Fox leading the charge. And all you could do at this point is take it one game at a time and hope your guys can stay sturdy. And an 11-point dub there, Jamal Murray dropping 21, but De'Aaron Fox balling out, dropping 34 in that dub, getting us an opportunity here to potentially push this to a Game 7 with a win here. And let's see what we could do. Hopping into Simcast, it's a closer one, but we end up taking it by 9 points here. De'Aaron Fox dropping another 24, Buddy dropping 24. And we go to a potential take it all or go home situation here in Game 7. And one that's a little bit back and forth early on. And thankfully, we're having a big fourth quarter here where we definitely did secure the lead. Getting a W in Game 7 here. 28 there from De'Aaron Fox. And a big double-double there for Brandon Clark, putting up 20 points and 15 rebounds from our power forward position. Western Conference Finals up against a Pelicans team that we actually have beat earlier on in this sim, but we find ourselves down yet again in another series, 3-1. Let's see if we can somehow clutch up yet again. They have a pretty big lead on us here, which is not something you want to see necessarily, but we're going to slow it down and hope that maybe we can make some type of a comeback. And we definitely make it a ball game here, to say the very least, with a super back and forth fourth quarter where we're outscoring them by 13 points right now. And yes, sir, we end up taking it by 4, 140-136, 32 from Zion there. Tyrese Haliburton dropping 39 in that clutch game. This is our opportunity to push it to Game 7 right here. And yet again, the Pelicans are leading us early, but we are clutching up in the fourth quarter yet again with a 14-point performance over them in the fourth, giving us the dub. No one necessarily standing out too much there, but it was a team effort, and we are going to Game 7 here now with the opportunity to make it to the NBA playoffs for the first time in this rebuild. Can we keep this going and clutch up? We're finding ourselves up by a comfortable lead here, 113-96. And let's see if we can at least hold this. And yes, sir, we can. As we end up taking it home, 132-113 here with another good fourth quarter of play by us, but a even better third quarter. Buddy leading the team in that W, getting us to the NBA championship where we're playing against the Pistons of all teams, who added a very scary player this year in Julius Randle, who's been balling out for the Knicks in real life. And we find ourselves down early, but we do actually get some games back, finding ourselves in a much more manageable position here, down 3-2, not down 3-0, and not down 3-1. So let's see if we can clutch up here and go to Game 7. And we did it with some ease there, in all honesty. De'Aaron Fox almost having a triple-double with 34 points. And here it all is. It all lies on this. We hop into the game, and we find ourselves up 132 to 105 here, boys. So if that means anything, that means that our Sacramento Kings are ultimately going to be taking an NBA championship home to the city of Sacramento, which is a huge W, of course, because early in this sim we were having some difficulties and started off with a 34-win team. Without Marvin Bagley, of course, we definitely made the Kings do their thing, and we're just going to let the shot clock dribble out here. I'm definitely interested to see who ultimately ends up getting that Finals MVP. Is it going to be De'Aaron Fox, who's of course had some great play, or maybe Tyrese Halliburton even lit it up in the finals? Who really knows? We're going to have to look into it and definitely check out the box score for the end of this game. So let's definitely get into it. Definitely interesting to see this team finally win an NBA championship. And of course, if you made it this far throughout the video, be sure to smack that like button. So our leading scorer was actually Fox, and then Tyrese Halliburton. Ultimately, Fox ends up getting Finals MVP. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bean out.